Hello. Once again, thank you. We thank everyone that we are back again. And this is the edition of the Weekend Intelligence Brief. I'm sure you're aware that Issues of the Day Weekend Intelligence Brief comes out every weekend. The printed edition, that is the newsletter. So I have to present what I have printed in my newsletter, Issues of the Day Weekend Intelligence Brief. A summation of the interesting things that happen when some of us are asleep and others are looking for opportunities for themselves. So let us proceed with the interesting revelations that the weekend has ushered in. Issues of the Day Weekend Intelligence Brief. This is the Weekend Intelligence Brief from Frederick Cybersecurity. I'm Frederick Wakuliaka. It is Saturday, the 7th of June, 2026, and this is your intelligence briefing for the weekend. This publication is the companion to the AI Breach Report, which I publish every Wednesday and Friday on LinkedIn. If the events I cover today demand deeper technical and business analysis, Wednesday and Friday editions deliver the full breakdown. If you are not yet subscribed to the AI Breach Report, go on LinkedIn. I do not have a link in the description, unfortunately, because it's on LinkedIn. Well, I would have to attach my LinkedIn, and you can, at the moment, you can only get it printed on LinkedIn. So I give you the virtual environment and the live report, what it talked about. So this weekend, we are covering 3 developments. The first is a newly identified state-linked espionage cluster that has been operating undetected inside enterprise Windows web servers, a threat actor no one was tracking until 5 days ago. The second is a patching convergence that will arrive on Tuesday. Microsoft's June patch Tuesday combined with a secure boot certificate expiry deadline, 17 days away, that many IT teams have not yet fully absorbed. These 2 events are on a collision course, and the organizations that do not act this weekend will be managing 2 crises simultaneously next week. The third is a benchmark data that exposes something that has been quietly building across the industry. A significant gap between what organizations are spending on AI-powered security tools and what those tools are actually delivering. Only 1 in 10 security operations centers reports getting excellent value from artificial intelligence. The other 9 are paying for capability they cannot use. None of these stories describe something that might happen. All 3 describe conditions that exist right now in your operating environment. So, without much further ado, Chapter 1, OP512, China-linked espionage inside your Windows web servers. Excuse me. On Friday, the 5th of June, 2026, the threat intelligence firm ReliaQuest disclosed the existence of a previously untracked threat cluster. It has designated OP512. OP512 stands for opponent. The designation signals that ReliaQuest has assessed this group as a distinct organized adversary, not a loosely affiliated set of opportunistic attackers, but a structured operation with defined objectives, repeatable tools, and a consistent method of entry. The target is Microsoft Internet Information Services, IIS, which is the Windows-based web server software that many organizations use to host internal applications, partner portals, and customer-facing systems. The method is a custom 3-component web shell framework built specifically for sustained covert access. Let me explain what a web shell is, because the term appears frequently in security reporting, but is rarely explained in terms of what it means for your business. A web shell is a malicious script that an attacker installs on a web server. Once installed, it acts as a permanent remote control interface. The attacker does not need credentials. They do not need to be on your network. They access the web shell through a web browser from anywhere in the world. And through it, they can read files, move through your network, extract data, and issue commands, all while appearing to generate ordinary web traffic. What makes OP512 significant is not simply that web shells are being used. Web shells are not new. What is significant is the architecture of the framework OP512 has built. ReliaQuest identified 3 components operating in concert. The first component handles initial access and persistence. The second component manages command execution. It is the component through which the attacker issues instructions to the compromised server. The third component is responsible for data staging, organizing files and documents for exfiltration before they are removed from the environment. This is not an opportunistic compromise. This is a structured intelligence gathering operation. The China-linked attribution is based on the tooling signatures, infrastructure patterns, and targeting profile ReliaQuest observed. Critically, OP512 had been operating before this disclosure. This means that there are organizations that have already been compromised and do not yet know it. Now let us be direct about the business exposure here, because this is the conversation your board and your senior leadership need to have this weekend. If your organization runs any externally accessible Windows-based web server, whether that server hosts a public website, a client portal, an internal application accessible from outside the office, or a partner integration point, you are in the potential target set for this operation. The financial services sector, the professional services sector, and the healthcare sector are all environments where IIS servers are common. They are used to host patient portals, client-facing document systems, claims platforms, case management tools, and regulatory reporting interfaces. Any of these systems that are running IIS and have not been audited for unauthorized access within the past 30 days should be treated as potentially compromised until proven otherwise. That is not alarmism. That is the operational implication of a structured espionage cluster that was operating before it was disclosed. The regulatory dimension is equally significant. Under the United Kingdom Data Protection Act 2018, organizations are required to report personal data breaches to the Information Commissioner's Office within 72 hours of becoming aware of a breach. Under the Network and Information Systems Regulations, operators of essential services face mandatory incident reporting obligations. If a web shell has been present on your server and data has been accessed or staged, that is a notifiable event. The clock starts from the moment you become aware, which if you investigate this weekend, may be this weekend. The action is specific and it is immediate. If your organization runs IIS servers with external access, your IT team or managed security provider must conduct a review of those servers this weekend. The review has 3 components. First, examine the IIS server directories, particularly the web application folders, and for any files that were not placed there by your development or IT team. Unexpected script files, especially files with extensions such as .aspx, .asp, .php, or .ashx in locations where they do not belong, should be treated as web shells until proven otherwise. Secondly, review your IIS access logs for unusual request patterns, particularly requests to file paths that do not correspond to your legitimate application structure, requests arriving at unusual hours, and outbound connections from the web server to external IP addresses that are not part of your normal infrastructure. Third, if your organization does not have the in-house capacity to conduct this review, contact your managed security provider today. Do not wait until Monday. If you do not have a managed security provider and you run internet information service servers with external access, this is the moment to engage one. OP512 was operating before it was named. The disclosure on the 5th of June is the beginning of your awareness window, not the beginning of the threat. Chapter 2, Patch Tuesday meets the secure boot deadline, a convergence you cannot ignore. Now we have gone to this Chapter 2. On Tuesday, the 9th of June 2026, Microsoft will release its monthly security update. Patch Tuesday. Patch Tuesday is the regular cadence through which Microsoft addresses security vulnerabilities across Windows operating systems, Office applications, Azure services, and the broader Microsoft product ecosystem. For IT teams managing Windows infrastructure, Patch Tuesday is a monthly operational event. Patches are released, tested in a controlled environment, and then deployed across the organization. This month, Patch Tuesday is not arriving in isolation. "17 days after this Tuesday, on the 26th of June 2026, a separate and significant deadline expires. Microsoft is retiring the certificate authority that currently anchors Secure Boot Trust on a substantial portion of Windows devices. Secure Boot is the firmware level security control that prevents unauthorized operating systems or bootloaders from loading when a device starts. It is one of the foundational integrity controls in modern Windows infrastructure. When the certificate expires, devices that have not been updated to trust the new certificate authority will face potential secure boot failures. In practical terms, that means devices that do not boot. Let me put the business impact directly. An organization that has not migrated its secure boot trust anchor before the 26th of June faces the risk of devices that cannot start on the 27th of June. In an environment of 50 to 200 employees, which is exactly the enterprise size this publication serves, a scenario where a significant portion of your workforce arrives at their desks on a Friday morning and cannot power on their machines is not a theoretical risk. It is an operational failure with immediate financial, regulatory, it's an operational failure with immediate financial, reputational, and regulatory consequences. The convergence with Patch Tuesday on the 9th of June is the reason this story belongs in this weekend's edition. The June Patch Tuesday update is expected to include, among other fixes, updates that are relevant to the secure boot migration. This means that the patch cycle your IT team is already planning for Tuesday is also the patch cycle that begins the critical 17-day window before the certificate deadline. If your team deploys Tuesday's patches and then considers the job done for the month, they will miss the follow-on action required for the secure boot migration. These are two separate steps that happen to land in the same calendar window. The decision this weekend is straightforward, but it requires a specific conversation. Your lead or managed service provider needs to know before Tuesday that this month's Patch Tuesday is not a standard update cycle. The secure boot certificate migration must be confirmed as a separate action item on their list for June, with a completion target no later than the 23rd of June, 3 days before the deadline, to allow time for any issues to surface before the expiry date arrives. If your IT function is outsourced, the question you need to ask your provider before Tuesday is this: are you tracking the Secure Boot Certificate Authority migration deadline of 26th June? And do you have a confirmed plan to complete it before that date? If the answer is uncertain, or if your provider is not familiar with the specific deadline, that conversation needs to happen now. Not after Tuesday's patches are deployed, and certainly not on the 24th of June. Two deadlines in 17 days, converging on the same update cycle. The organizations that treat Tuesday as an ordinary Patch Tuesday will discover the second deadline when it is too late to act calmly. So let's go to chapter 3. We talk SOC CMM 2026. Only 1 in 10 security operations centers is getting value from AI. The third story this weekend is not about a specific attack or a specific deadline. It is about a structural problem that has been building quietly across the industry, and it has now been measured. the Security Operations Center Capability Maturity Model, what I call SOC CMM, Security Operations Center Capability Maturity Model. SOC CMM published its 2026 benchmark report on the 5th of June. The SOC CMM is an independently conducted assessment framework that measures the maturity of security operations functions across organizations worldwide. The 2026 report surveyed security operations centers across multiple sectors and geographies. Its central finding on artificial intelligence is stark. Only 10% of security operations centers report that they are receiving excellent value from AI. 9 in 10 security operations centers, organizations that have invested in AI 9 in 10 security operations centers, organizations that have invested in AI-powered security tooling, that are paying for licenses, that have integrated these platforms into their operations, report that the value they are receiving is average, below average, or that they cannot measure it at all. So they are reporting that the value they are receiving is average, below average, or that they cannot measure it at all. This is not a fringe finding from a small sample. This is a benchmark drawn from security operations functions across the industry, and it has a specific and direct implication for the medium enterprises that this publication serves. Let me explain the dynamic that produces this result, because understanding the mechanism is what allows you to decide whether your organization is among the 10% or the 90%. AI-powered security tools, whether they are AI-assisted threat detection platforms, AI-augmented security information and event management systems, or AI-driven endpoint detection and response tools, generate value through a specific operational chain. The AI component identifies anomalies, surfaces alerts, and proposes responses. A human analyst interprets those outputs, makes decisions, and takes action. The cycle then feeds back into the AI system, improving its future detections. That chain breaks at 3 points. The first breakpoint is alert volume. When an AI security tool is not properly tuned to the specific environments in which it operates, it generates a high volume of alerts, many of which are false positives. Analysts spend their time reviewing alerts that lead nowhere. The AI is working, but the work it is producing is not useful. The second breakpoint is integration. AI security tools generate value when they have visibility across the environment. Endpoints, network traffic, email, identity systems, cloud infrastructure. When an AI tool has partial visibility because it is not fully integrated with the rest of the organization's technology stack, it produces incomplete detections, it misses threats that cross the boundaries of its visibility. The third breakpoint is skills. AI security tools produce outputs, summaries, risk scores, recommended actions that require a trained analyst to interpret and act on correctly. If the security operations function does not have analysts with the skills to interpret AI outputs in context, the value of the AI platform is not realized, regardless of how capable the technology is. The SOC CMM finding is that 90% of security operations centers are experiencing one or more of these breakpoints. They have the tools, they do not have the operational conditions in which the tools can deliver excellent value. For the medium enterprise, this finding lands differently than it does for a large enterprise. A large organization with a fully staffed security operations center has the resources to tune AI platforms, integrate them deeply, and develop specialized skills. The medium enterprise with a small IT team, a managed security provider, or a partially outsourced security function is almost always in a position where one or more of the three breakpoints is present. The practical implication is this. If your organization is paying for an AI-powered security platform, whether that is through a managed security provider, contract, a direct license for a security information and event management tool, or an endpoint detection and response platform with AI capabilities, the default assumption based on this benchmark should be that you are not in the 10%. The burden of proof is on the evidence, not the assumption. The question your leadership team needs to be able to answer is what specific, measurable output is our AI security tooling producing each month? And what decisions or actions has that output enabled? If the answer is vague, if the response from your IT lead or managed provider is that the tool is running and monitoring, that is not evidence of value. That is evidence of operation. Operation and value are not the same thing. The action this weekend is a single conversation with your IT lead or managed security provider. Ask them to name one specific threat or incident in the past 30 days that was detected by the AI component of your security platform and that resulted in a specific action. If they can answer that question clearly and specifically, you have evidence of value. If they cannot, you have an investment that is operating in the 90% threshold. That is not a conversation to have in 3 months at a quarterly review. That is a conversation to have this weekend or in the first meeting of the week that follows. So 3 decisions before Monday. Every edition of the Weekend Intelligence Brief closes with 3 decisions, not recommendations, decisions, specific actions that your leadership team or your IT function can take before the working week begins on Monday morning. Decision 1. If your organization runs any Internet Information Services web server with external access, assign someone, whether that is your internal IT lead, your managed security provider, or an external specialist, to review that server for unauthorized files and unusual access log entries before Monday morning. If that review cannot begin this weekend, it must be the first task on Monday. Do not allow this week to pass without that review being completed. Decision 2. Before Tuesday's Patch Tuesday update cycle begins, confirm with your IT lead or managed service provider that the June Secure Boot Certificate Authority migration is on their list as a separate action item from the standard patch deployment, with the target completion date no later than the 23rd of June. Get that confirmation in writing. By email is sufficient, so there is a documented record of the instruction. Decision 3. Ask your IT lead or managed security provider to name one specific threat or incident detected by your AI security tooling in the past 30 days that resulted in a defined action. If that question produces a specific credible answer, your AI investment is working. If it does not schedule a review of that investment in the next 2 weeks, not a general review, a specific review with a specific outcome, either the platform is retuned and integrated to deliver measurable defections, or it is replaced with something that does. Tuesday, the 9th of June, brings Patch Tuesday. Act on it that day. And ensure your provider confirms completion of the secure boot migration timeline. Wednesday, the 10th of June, is the report stage of the United Kingdom Cybersecurity and Resilience Bill in Parliament. This is a significant legislative milestone. The bill will extend mandatory incident reporting obligations and expand the scope of regulated sectors. I'll cover the outcome of Wednesday's report in the AI breach report on Wednesday evening. The 26th of June is the Secure Boot Certificate expiry deadline. If your IT function has not completed the migration by the 23rd, that is when the operational risk becomes critical. If you are not already subscribed to the AI breach report on LinkedIn, the link is on LinkedIn. Wednesday and Friday editions deliver the in-depth analysis that this weekend brief introduces. That is the weekend intelligence brief for Saturday the 7th and Sunday the 8th of June 2026. 3 stories, 3 decisions, all of them actionable before Monday morning. I'm Frederick Wakliaka. This is Issues of the Day, the weekend intelligence brief from Frederick Cybersecurity. You will find this brief along with the breach report and the daily business intelligence brief on LinkedIn. My YouTube channel is at Frederick Wakliaka 4561. The handle is Frederick Wakliaka, is at Frederick Wakliaka 4561. I'm also going to be active on TikTok and Instagram. The website is frederickcybersecurity.com. Protect your business. Make the decision. I will see you next weekend. Thank you for listening.